4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this year's Last Minute Continue Game of the Year Awards. I am your semi-host, as per usual, Urtheart, and I have the two other wise men that I always like joining me for this adventure. There is a Turbo.
Hello!
And a ShadowFox.
Ahoy hoy.
And we're back at it again. We're going to keep things quite chill, and I think we've all got 5 games, right?
Just about.
I believe it. I think I've got just about, because I didn't really play many new games in the first half of the year for a good while.
Honestly, this year seemed to kind of had a moments where it was like, oh, it's a bit dry for me. I don't know what's...
Well, it was more of a case of like, on my streaming channel, twitch.tv/TurboDrive Live, I was doing like 6 months of Sonic for Sonic's 30th anniversary, so I was like doing that.
That was
for the start of the year.
Yeah,
that was this year, wasn't it?
It was a good excuse. It's definitely a good excuse.
So all the games that were coming out in the first half of the year, I didn't get a chance to play until like, or some that came out earlier in the year, I didn't get to play until like the summer. So, on stream. So, but no, I have played a good number of games.
Oddly enough, last year I actually had a full list of 10 because I had to switch them around. I struggled to hit 5 this year.
Yeah, so it was actually initially on my list. Most of the games were free-to-play games because there wasn't very much that I had to pay for that caught my attention initially. It's changed a bit.
Well, this year, I think almost every year I tend to decide the order. So this year, I have actually left it up to ShadowFox to choose the order.
It's me, Chris Pratt, to decide the order.
And that's another piece of gaming news that came out this year.
That was.
Yeah. Topical.
Right, well, I figured for this year, we're going to go by birthdays earliest in the year to latest, which I believe puts it at yours on May the 4th, mine on June the 30th, and Turbo's in mid-November, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. We'll go mid-November. You can't get my day right. And it's like, yes, November. We'll go with that.
I know it was very recent.
This is the problem.
It was only a month ago. Jeez.
Yeah. I'll get started. My number 5, probably going to be on a lot of people's top lists, but I still enjoyed the game, but it didn't wow me as much as most people, and that is Metroid Dread. This is actually the only Switch game I played on the Switch on my list, although I did play a fair few Switch games, just a lot of remakes. But yes, Metroid Dread, it's definitely a very good installment of the game. It is a continuation of the main Metroid series. I am a fan of some of the main Metroid series. I'm a bigger fan of the Metroid Prime games, if I'm going to be honest. But I do like... Fusion is one of my favourites. I do like Zero Mission. And then after that, my favourite is probably AM2R, which is a fan game. But yeah, it's very well done fan game.
Did you ever try Samus Returns, the 3DS remake?
No, because I never managed to get a copy of it. I really couldn't find a copy of it.
Because that obviously was like the bedstone for Dread in terms of like gameplay, because it still had a few mechanics from that game implemented into Dread, like the counter move.
Yeah, and this was one of my complaints of Dread, was that counter move felt a little bit too overused. Certainly early game, before you got a lot of your powers, you had to counter everything just to kill them. Otherwise it was just a slog. My other big complaint is actually the Emmys. The main gimmick of the game isn't fun. Certainly later on in the game, where they get stupidly difficult for no reason, and it just becomes a game of luck. I felt like at times.
I was gonna say it's almost like they multiplied the SAX from Metroid Fusion. They just multiplied her with the amount of Emmys because the SAX in Fusion was like always stalking you, and it was the only thing that was kind of like going around. But then obviously they teased that there was more than like 10 on station, but it didn't seem like that. This time, however, with Dread, there's obviously a lot more of them, like, scattered around.
Yeah, and narratively it makes sense. I think the big difference between them and the SAX is the SAX is built up through the whole game, and it's the final boss, kind of. And I feel that's why it works, is because there's always you cannot defeat this thing, and even when you defeat this thing, you cannot defeat this thing. You don't actually win. One of the big problems I have with the Emmy is the fact that you kill every single one in exactly the same way. You have to find this particular MacGuffin. That MacGuffin works on one Emmy. You kill the Emmy that way, you get the Emmy's power, but you lose that super ability. And yeah, the whole chase sequences you have with them get just a bit too much sometimes. But other than that, the game controls beautifully. It's definitely the best controlling Metroid. Actually shooting, running and gunning in it is a blast, and I do like, while the quote sequence breaks unquote are purposeful, there's a few that you can do, and it's very obvious you're supposed to be able to do them, because one in particular, the boss has a easy short kill way if you sequence break to be able to kill him, which is really coolly done. My other major criticism is that the way they've made it much harder. The normal difficulty in this game feels like the hard difficulty of every other Metroid game I've played. And certainly the final boss is a long battle of attrition where you just have to avoid damage as much as possible. It's not terrible, but I do feel like they went a little bit too far on this is for hardcore Metroid fans, rather than giving the option of, opening it up to newer fans. But overall, I still enjoyed this game enough to complete it twice. And that's 100%ing all items. Haven't done the speed runs because I'm terrible at them. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I will probably go back and do a few more runs. I will say I think I still prefer Fusion, but this is definitely higher than Super Metroid for me. And Super Metroid, this is higher than Super Metroid. It's higher than other M, obviously. It's probably higher than Metroid 2, but I think Fusion still beats it out for me. But yeah, if you can get it at a decent price, Metroid Dread is definitely worth getting.
I'll say, because I've never played a Metroid game, so obviously I have no point of reference then. Would this be a good first jump-in point?
No,
or?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, no.
Oddly enough, as much as people criticise it, I think Fusion is the best jumping-on point because it's slightly more linear than the average Metroid, which means it builds you up quite a bit slower, but I think that suits a newer player better, and Fusion was my first 2D Metroid, so...
Guess I'm up next then. So, this is a game that actually just barely avoided getting on my list last year because it wasn't out. It was out in December. Because around here we count because we record this in December, we count the year as previous December to November.
December to November essentially.
Which might make it easier to figure out what game it is, in that it was Cyberpunk.
Did that come out in December?
It did. It came out in December last year. It's it feels your time has been warped. Very much so.
For some reason, I felt like it came out like February of this year.
No, it was December, and in fact, it even got put into nominations at the Video Game Awards 2 weeks after its release.
Which was hilarious, considering it got pulled from consoles about
I
2
do
weeks
remember
after
that.
release. No, yeah, like that straight up. First of all, I had it on PC, and the PC was the most polished version of the game. Was still a bit grimy in places. Certainly not to the degree of the other console versions. But I mean, the game itself, it was actually kind of a lot of fun. The ability to like ride around and customize yourself out. Like, do I want? Because I played through the game twice, and I do need to go back into it again now. Now, because they're saying it's good now. They're saying that it's getting better. But it's like I had a couple of characters. One was a kind of tech-savvy person who had a double jump who could stealth around. It was like a hacker, Mr. Hackerman. And then I had the other one, which was a big old punchy lady who... It's very bizarre to see the differences in combat styles and like how much they actually affect. Like, there were missions that I had to cheese in each go through because of just complications. Like there's like a side quest called it's a boxing side quest basically. You go around knocking them down. I think it's something called Beat the Streets. I think it was called. On my punching character, it was not a problem. It was the easiest thing. But on my stealth character, I had to basically cheese it by dropping a sword in the middle of the arena before the battle and then pick that up mid-fight, so I had a chance to actually do enough damage. Because it would literally... The guy would punch me and I would die in one.
That seems like a flaw in... Because it feels like you should have an alternate way of getting around that mission, I guess.
It does. Like, I don't know if it... And cause it's... Like, obviously there's a degree of customization, obviously. So it's like, did I put points in certain things? But I feel like it's like it didn't allow me to use all of them, which was a bit of a flaw. When it's like you can go through here and you can stealth your way through, you can talk your way through, you can do this thing because you chose this origin. But then sometimes it feels like you are absolutely locked into. It feels like for a lot of like there was a mission I remember that I had like with a gunfight, and it was like, right, he didn't really explicitly tell you it was a gunfight that was coming up, and it definitely took me many attempts of saving and reloading just to figure it out. But even through all of that, like all of the trash, there were a lot of like, there's a lot of fun characters in there that you get to meet up with. Got the nomads. I chose myself to be a nomad because that was it seemed to be the most chill kind of life there. It's like, do you want to be a business corpo man, or do you want to be a street punk, or do you want to be just someone who kind of lives on the outskirts of the city and doesn't really give a shit? And it's like, yeah, you know what, that sounds kind of fun.
And then you get to meet Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, then meet Keanu Reeves, and he hates me, but then
Really?
we're buds. Well, you're sharing a body, effectively, to start with.
I did not know that. I have not paid any attention to Cyberpunk, if I'm going to be honest.
He's basically Cortana. He's in your head, little chip in your head. Except he wants your body to control. There's enough like variety. There is like enough variety in the missions and like how you do them, and there are things I missed that I didn't realise because I was like, oh, I can go back to this area and go around and save this character and do this. So again, it has like the more exploration freedom to do. Driving around is still kind of fun, even if you are bouncing around. It's like the combat didn't like when everything works. It does just feel really good to play.
When it works.
When it works, which, like I said, now it seems like it's getting there. I would still probably say stick with the PC version.
Yeah, because I don't think the next gen versions are out till next year now.
I Yeah, I'm not quite certain what's the deal with them, honestly. It's. Like I say, it was a game built for PC. Just stick with PC. No.
Well, I can take on the helm here with my number 5 pick. I think it's only fair because a lot of my games that I played were remasters and remakes and re-releases and stuff like that that are on newer format. And of course, one of them was that of a game that was celebrating a certain anniversary this year. And of course, a lot of people garnered it as a very, very, very poor job of a port, of a remaster or whatever. But personally, I didn't think it was that bad. So that's why it's at number 5. And that is Sonic Colors Ultimate.
I think I'm going to agree with you that I don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be. Unless maybe you were on the Switch.
I saw that a lot of those issues actually came from Switch emulators on PC and not the actual.
Exactly. There were still some issues on the Switch version. Because they did patch them. But yeah, no, it was nowhere near. I don't think it was anywhere near as bad as people were making it out to be. But yeah, go on, Tomo. This is
I was just it's like I was playing the PS4 version on PS4 Pro, whilst obviously a lot of test reviews and stuff like that, or many reviews were playing the PS4 version on PS5 or the Xbox version on Xbox Series X or whatever.
Because all these review places get their nice shiny consoles guaranteed. Yeah.
So with my kind of like experience on the PS4 Pro, it wasn't as bad, and I was being careful because I was hearing about all the kind of like the corrupt saves and stuff like that and whatnot. So I was always backing up my save pretty much after every world just to be on the safe side. But overall, it wasn't a bad experience. It was the Sonic Colors that I remember, and it's actually. I actually went out of my way, because obviously I like going for my platinums, I went out of my way to platinum the game, and this is the first time I actually completed Sonic Colors 100%, like getting all the S ranks, getting effectively everything in the game. The only thing that I didn't get was enough coins to buy all the extra content that was made available, all the kind of like...
But that's not needed for the platinum, is it?
No, it's not. It's just superficial stuff like the auras and the yeah. They have another name for them, but I just call them the anime speedlines filters.
I can't remember what they call them. The boost trail, I guess.
I something like that. Or well, they call them auras, I think, for that. But it's like
auras.
Yeah, but. Yeah, the different kind of like spikes, the different shoes, the different gloves and whatnot. It's like I didn't get enough coins to buy everything in this store, in that specific store, but it's not needed for completing the game 100%. But no, doing all the S ranks and all the kind of like red ring, collecting all the red rings and stuff like that, it was enjoyable because again, this was a game that I just completely streamed online. From pretty much from start to finish, and I didn't find it to be that terrible on the PS4. I know the Switch version isn't the greatest one. I've seen the footage, obviously, and it's running at 30 frames per second. But apparently, my perception of the original was blinded because the original was 30 frames per second on the Wii. So it's like, all right. So I mean. It's consistent on Nintendo consoles, we'll say that. Yeah.
I think the issue was with all the upgrades they did for the Switch, it wasn't actually hitting 30 all the time. Whereas because it was obviously originally designed for the Wii, they designed it to run fairly smoothly at 30 frames on the Wii.
Yeah.
I actually played it on the PC, on the Epic Store version, because that's the version I was gifted by someone. I do actually have the PlayStation version. I haven't played it yet. And I will say, I will say, some of those S ranks are very difficult to get.
They can be, but if you know how to manipulate the score counter and be able to farm for certain areas. Granted, you can't farm in one area for too long, because you'll end up losing time, and then that'll obviously lose you a score bonus at the end. But
it's certain particular missions that I found that where the margin is very small, and there isn't actually any way to farm points. There's one in particular I'm remembering from Aquarium Planet. It's one of the very short levels, and you actually just don't. You have to just be quick and accurate because there isn't anywhere to gain points.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, I just had a good time. I had a good time. It's like good enough to actually say, hey, this was a nice little remaster for. As a sort of a filler gap between, the last newest release of the Sonic franchise, like main Sonic franchise, which was Forces back in 2017, to the new newest Sonic game that will be out sometime in 2022. So hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, I can't say anything wrong with it at all.
No,
so.
It didn't hit my top 5 because I kind of tried to limit how many remasters I have on my list just as a personal preference. I agree that I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be. I still do think it has its issues. Some of them, a lot of them I think are minor, but I've kind of put my thoughts in a previous LMC cast. I think the biggest one for me on the Epic Store one was that I was never able to complete the egg shuttle stuff because the game continuously crashed partway through, and if it does that, it doesn't save any of the progress.
Yes.
So I'd have to start from the beginning.
Yeah, so that was one of the things I was fearing when I made my run on the PlayStation, and lo and behold, I was able to get through it in one shot. Nothing wrong. So
the thing is, it was always consistent on what level it crashed. So I think it was a problem with that build. They may have fixed it later on, but I never went back. It's the only trophy I was missing.
Fair dues.
But I can try again on PlayStation. So
yeah, of course.
So my number 4 is, in theory, it's a HD re-release, but it was never released in Europe or America beforehand. So it's essentially a new game, right? Now, sadly, I have not been able to finish this game because, as these two will know, I've had some serious PC problems over the last couple of months, and the latest one happened in the middle when I was trying to play this game. But I've played enough of the game and to know that I'm already loving it, and I really want to try and finish it, and that is the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Oh, Ace Attorney.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, it is a spin-off of sorts of the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series, where you play as one of his ancestors in Industrial Revolution Britain / when the Britain and the Japanese Empire were kind of just making niceties together, I guess, and joining together. There is one of the big things is that you meet the game's take on Sherlock Holmes, who's called Herlock Sholmes, because legal reasons.
It's not just a game's sake. It's actually a legitimate character from the I think it was like the original creator or whatever, to get around the rights of Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. So
in Japan he's actually called Sherlock Holmes. It's outside of that. It's because the Arthur Conan Doyle Society don't believe that copyright should end when it ends, by law. They should still be able to make money off it. That's a debate for a different time.
I could have sworn it's like you could use the name Sherlock Holmes, but the stories he was in were off limits.
Again,
to a degree.
This is debated by them still. And Japan basically says, we don't care. America has their own law, and Europe has their own law, and it's all very mixed up. So yeah, they hadn't previously released it because of those. They've now brought it out. So the originals were on 3DS, I believe.
Yes.
So they've ported them to, pretty pretty much every console under the sun: Switch, PC, Xbox, PlayStation. And yeah, I've played up till partway through the 5th case. So the collection actually contains both games that released on 3DS. So I've not even got halfway through the game yet, but it's definitely a much more of an emotional roller coaster than some of the previous ones have been. To give you an example, while the first case is a very interesting example and works quite well, the second case is a little bit weird because there's no court segment in it. You'll just have to deal with that one. That's definitely the low point of the first game. The third case has a very unusual ending. I don't think there's really ever been a case in the rest of the series where you feel like you've done the wrong thing, and this one makes you feel like that. And then it picks up again really after the 4th case, from what I've seen. Again, I haven't finished the 5th case yet because it died in the middle. My PC died in the middle of playing the 5th case. So,
but you can see you're enjoying it enough.
I already. And basically, everyone's told me once you finish the first game, the second game picks up even better because it's already established everything from the first game, so it doesn't need to build itself up again. And the other biggest praise I'll give the game is the facial animations and expressions are amazing. Like, if this was on the 3DS, it would have been super impressive, and they've properly treated it in its HD glow up. The new mechanics, some of them I like, some of them are a bit off, and you definitely feel like you're on the back foot a lot. The new prosecutor is... I don't particularly like him at the moment, but I've been told by the end of Case 5, you understand why he's a massive dick. So
Miles Medgeworth.
It's yeah, unfortunately, it's not Miles Edgeworth's predecessor.
No, Isles Medgeworth.
This is the thing. I don't think anyone is going to top Edgeworth as a prosecutor. The closest, I think, Simon Blackwell from the 3DS games was actually very close, but
I will say again, my Phoenix Wright pretty much comes down to first half of the anime series, the live action movie, and a general light dabbling.
I mean, yeah, this is definitely a game for fans of the series. I don't think this is one to get into as your first game, but if you've played the trilogy on PC, or PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch, because I think it's on all of them, this is a great next step. It's a shame the other ones are a little bit harder to get. I think Ace Attorney 4 is iOS only at the moment, unless you can find an original DS copy, and then the other two are 3DS, and the Miles Edgeworth games, well, one of them was never released out here, so I'm hoping this one does so well that they can remaster the rest of the series just to preserve it, because I really feel like it deserves it. But this game was I definitely loved what I played so far, and I want to play more, which is a good sign for a game. I struggled to start with it, I will admit, but as soon as you get into it, once you get to that spark of, yes, I'm now in the courtroom, this is the Phoenix Wright stuff I love, it goes so much better. And the characters I've seen are great. They're very charismatic and stuff, which is brilliant. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to finishing it when I can, basically. Although I may have to restart the game from the start, which is always going to be interesting. But yes, I won't mind doing it. It's a big thing. So Ace Attorney Chronicles is my number 4.
Did you have any experience with the Ace Attorney stuff, Turbo, or?
No, I've pretty much not been playing many of things. I did play one of the games via the WiiWare service at one point. I think it was like Trials and Tribulations, I think was the entry. I had like leftover Nintendo points, and
that would have been interesting. Trials and Tribulations is the 3rd game of the original trilogy, so that's a very interesting jumping in point. I would definitely say it would be worth going back and doing the first game and building up towards Trials and Tribulations.
Yeah,
although
but
I will
Really
say,
with any kind of series.
Yeah, but with what was it? The series kind of like plan out and stuff like that. I have been interested in it because it is in that kind of like visual novel puzzle element that I'm a fan of, with games like Hotel Dusk and Last Window.
yes, of course.
And the another Code series as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that would be right up my street. It's just I haven't put much time and investment into it.
But yes, ShadowFox, your number 4.
Yes, my number 4. It was a game that was kind of surprised me that it was. Kind of forgot that it was out, but it was conveniently it's my number 4 because it's Back 4 Blood. So I can't remember who it was. Someone just mentioned. I think it was probably like Dusk or might have been Ian who mentioned like it was like, we're gonna play it, and it's like, how much is it? And it was like, it's free on Xbox Game Pass, and I'm like, oh, that's convenient. And for those of you wondering what it is, A Back 4 Blood is the spiritual successor to the Left 4 Dead series. In that it pretty much plays very, very similarly because it's made by Turtle Beach, isn't it? They're called
Turtle Rock.
Turtle Rock. That was it. Turtle Beach do the headsets, don't they?
Yeah, Turtle Beach are the headsets.
Headset, that's it.
I was going to say, I was interested to see it because obviously their last game, which was Evolve, was...
Yeah. I remember watching a video about how that went so bad. But yeah, so it's like they made Left 4 Dead, kind of got picked up by Valve, published that, Left 4 Dead 2. Then obviously Valve stopped making games, and they decided let's make our Left 4 Dead 3. And it's pretty much the next kind of evolution of that style of game. Like you got your assortment of weapons as normal. You can't ranging from your simple like pistols, SMGs, snipers, assault rifles, all shotguns. And you kind of got again like this kind of story that's going on throughout it, which due to repurchases and just I don't know if it's like a bug or not or something, but it wasn't unlocking the level selections for it wasn't counting as having completed for I think Dusk a couple of times. So I think I've replayed the first act 3 times now. But it's your standard like teamwork co-op shooter. It's kind of you go through, you run around, you shoot your things. You got your special infected, of course. You got your you're not boomers, you're not chargers, you're not hunters, you're not spitters.
They just do exactly the same thing.
It's like, okay, if we took this bit from this one and this bit from this one and make this, and then if we take this bit from this one to make that. It's not reinventing the wheel, obviously. It's a nice and it's a simple shooter, but it's again fun for just four people, as is in the title.
You say it's fun, a fun simple shooter, but I actually see it as a little more lot more advanced to that of Left 4 Dead.
It has, because it has evolved certainly with something called it's got the card system, which as you go through the missions, it's like there's like basically a deck of cards that's going on in the background. You have your deck that you can buy. So when you complete missions, you get points. You can spend the points on new cards, and you can put the cards into a deck. And then these cards will give you more copper, which is a resource that you can spend on getting upgrades and better weapons or health kits, or like extra health, more movement speed, better melees, better sprint recovery. Also, there's 8 characters all have slightly different modifications to the team. So you get the cards, and the game itself gets its own cards. So it's like, on this level there are screechers, or there are more crows. Don't disrupt the crows, they'll bring the hordes. Was it like in the original Left 4 Dead they had the the AI director, they called it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which was like it goes. It's never going to be the same run twice because it's going to choose randomly where the witch goes, and it has that same kind of thing here, except now it has like another layer of complication with these decks of cards. Like maybe you have to find a box and take it to the end to get extra points, or maybe there's going to be a boss spawn on this level, so now you have to fight the boss to get extra credits and succeed. But yeah, I mean, it's like the idea is that it's kind of like it's very early on. Zombies are just sort of appearing. You kind of got your little base camp. You're dealing with it all. And there's still a fair. I haven't completed the final act yet, so I'm not quite sure where it does all go.
And they're still planning DLC as well, aren't they?
There's still, yeah. I can definitely see them not leaving this game alone for a while. I mean, I don't even think the offline play is technically playable yet. I think that was like an option that wasn't selectable, which was bizarre. That is the one annoying thing, is that you have to go via their servers. So if you've got a group of 4, it has to try and find you a server for you 4 to play on. You can't just have a local host. But yeah, I mean, it's on free for Xbox Game Pass, so if you have that,
It's
try it.
It's on my to-do list. I don't have Game Pass, so I'll be looking at buying the game instead.
Yeah. No, so you said you looked at it a little bit, Turbo. You actually played it, or are you just...
I was interested at one point, and I was given many opportunities to be part of the beta when that was around. But over time, I was just like, yeah, this is getting too complicated. Like, they're throwing too much into the formula to make it... like, me myself, adding so many other things to it. Yeah, more is more, yeah. But sometimes sometimes too much more is too much. You know, it's like... I just... It kind of just threw me away for it. And plus, I had my priorities on other things throughout the year, and there's been other games that came out this year that I didn't get a chance to play either. So it's just Back 4 Blood was put into the back burner for me. So
Yeah, same here.
Whether or not I get it is another question.
No, I think that's a good choice. I mean, I've definitely seen you guys play it, and you're definitely enjoying it. It's just on the back burner for me at the moment because
Back
other
4
stuff.
Blood on the back burner.
So with myself, for number 4, I'm going into the route of what Urtheart led into with the story narrative of gaming. And it's, again, pretty much a remaster, remake of an older game, like way older. In fact, actually a series that never got localized beforehand. And I'm pairing them up because it's 2 separate games, but I feel as though they're one complete game. In fact, actually, on the eStore, they are sold together as a pack rather than separately.
I think I know what this is now.
Yeah. So my number 4 is Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind, and The Missing Heir. 2 halves of a story, or like a story arc, essentially, where you can actually play one or the other, no problem. I mean, many people say you can play The Missing Heir first and then The Girl Who Stands Behind, but I feel after playing both games and understanding that The Girl Who Stands Behind actually takes place before The Missing Heir, I'd recommend playing that one first over the Missing Heir. But the problem is that in the how it was originally released, The Missing Heir was the first game that was released, and The Girl Who Stands Behind was the second game released. So it had different mechanics. I say different mechanics. It's a visual novel game. It's not really got much difference to it, but it does have a slight difference to it. Why it's in number 4? I just was really engaged with the story, the narrative, how characters develop, and the mystery and the thrill, the thriller aspect, because these are kind of like murder mystery stories essentially, because characters get killed off, and you play as a junior detective essentially, as part of this detective agency, to solve these mysteries. And of course, the first one, in The Girl Who Stands Behind, it's all revolved around a girl who got killed, or murdered and whatnot, and you have to find the story, link the clues to another missing girl case years ago, and then in the Missing Heir, it's to find who was part of this big family with a fortune that's need to obviously hand down the family lineage to, and it ends up becoming a murder mystery because obviously people within the family who would be next in line are getting killed off. So you kind of like find out clues that way. I just really got engaged. I love this. I love this pair of games and really enjoyed it.
Is it like one big mystery per game?
It's one big mystery per game. Yeah, it's like, but the thing is that they do connect each other in some way. That like there is a story thread that kind of like connects the two. Okay. And of course the best thing is that you can name your protagonist whoever you like, and you can carry that over into the other game as well.
That's good.
So, and I think there's other aspects that you can also carry on. It depends on whatever you had a save file from the other game can be transferred over to.
So it can go backwards and forwards.
Yes, effectively. But no, I love this. I love this game, and that's why it's at number 4. It's very simple visual novel kind of like game with some slight puzzle elements, with some detective work and whatnot. The voice acting is all in Japanese because they didn't want to translate.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I was happy with that. I was happy with the English subtitles. In fact, I set it up where I think you can actually disable the voice acting, I believe. And I think I did that because I was streaming this on my Twitch channel, and I was just voicing all the characters that way. So it makes it easier instead of having the Japanese dialogue being spoken in the background while the English text is going. It's like I just turn that off and then just do the dialogue and
new voice acting.
Yeah. Did it have like the text box noise, like the bit or at all, or is it just?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any text box noise. I don't.
I suppose if it's got Japanese audio, it wouldn't have had that overlapping with the Japanese audio. So I saw this like announced. And I was like, this is interesting, but I never acted on it because I don't use my Switch that much.
The only drawback I can say, it is highly priced. Like it's 50 quid.
It's a Nintendo game.
It's a Nintendo game.
Yeah. So, and I don't think I even saw it on like the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals that Nintendo was doing on the eStore. I would give it
a year before that happens. For anything that's Nintendo published, not going to happen within a year. Okay, so my bronze awards. So this was a game. Now, admittedly, I completely forgot this game released this year because I pretty much rinsed it in a couple of days. And that included 100%ing all the achievements in it. But it's a game I kickstarted. Or, well, kind of. It wasn't on Kickstarter. They made their own company called Fig to kickstart it, essentially. But it's by a well-known studio. And it is a long-awaited sequel. And I'm surprised I forgot, but this was definitely one of my highlights of the year. Psychonauts 2.
Not Shenmue 3 then.
Sorry?
Not Shenmue 3 then.
Well, it would be Shenmue 3 because that was years ago.
So, Psychonauts 2 is a mixture of platforming and 3D beat 'em up and puzzle solving. I felt this one leaned a little harder into the combat and less into the puzzle solving, which a little bit disappointing, but the combat systems were so much betterly improved that actually the combat was fairly nice, and the variety of enemies they've added were very good. One of the other things, it's hard to not compare this game to the first game, which was it had a lot more limitations, and so it had to do a lot more clever things, and it feels like in this game that cleverness isn't quite as prominent, but it still does quite a lot of really nice things. The other big difference being that in the first game it was more about exploring different psychological issues in people's minds. This one is, these people don't necessarily have psychological problems, some of them do. And you try to help them with them, but for the most part it's going through and discovering the people themselves, which is interesting. And the whole plot, I will say that the whole plot feels like it jumps the shark quite a bit, if you catch my drift. But overall the game is a pleasure to play. It looks stunning, and there's enough nods to the original that it is definitely it definitely plays to its fans as well. A lot of my gripes have admittedly been fixed in a post-patch thing that came out fairly recently, where it helped you find some of the missing items and stuff that are hard to find. It is on Xbox Game Pass, as is the original. I would still say play the original first. There is technically a game in between the two called The Rompus of Ruin, but it's VR only, so good luck.
If you're lucky enough to have a room big enough and a VR headset, and
yeah, I again, one of those games I'd want to play, don't have a VR headset. Might get one if they do one for the PS5, but we'll see.
You can use the PSVR headset on the PS5, I believe.
True, although, again, good luck trying to find one. But yeah, no, Psychonauts 2 was definitely a highlight. I would say, as a fan of the original and someone that backed it, I only backed it at the level to get the game on Steam, basically.
it's basically a pre-order.
Yeah, essentially. I was not disappointed. I think I wasn't as wowed as I was hoping to be, which is why it's only made number 3. Despite the fact that, to be honest, I probably could have switched this with my number 2 easily. And, you know, there's a lot of good stuff the game does. It does have its shortfallings, but none of that detracts away from... I will say there's some very big highlights. Admittedly, though, a lot of those highlights are stuff they put in trailers, so they're not quite as a surprise. One of the big ones being the Jack Black level is fantastic. It's also one of the biggest levels, which also then makes the collectafoning part a nightmare, but, you know, that's the price you pay. Psychonauts 2, yeah. Honestly, if you can, give it a try, although I would say play the original first, even though the original is a little bit janky by today's standards. But it gives you a lot more appreciation for the second game. And yeah, that is my bronze for this year.
I had a little bit of a toss-up between my bronze, and I think in the end I'm going to stick with the new Pokemon Pearl release, or Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, we'll say, both are the same.
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, yeah.
I can never remember which way round they are.
I sometimes struggle for that. Like, legitimately, it has been a very long time since I sat down with a Pokemon game and I actually, like, properly, like, finished it, did the Elite Four, and then, because all the Pokemon games have always had
bonus
a bonus afterwards. And the last time I did it with a mainline would have been actually the original Diamond and Pearl. I redid it with Gold and Silver, the Heart Gold, Soul Silver remakes, because they were my favourites and such. But yeah, it's like, obviously I'm still working through Pearl. Obviously, I've done a few gyms.
Yeah,
still getting my
we were
team
discussing
up.
this before we were recording.
We were still discussing, still getting a few of my teams sorted out. But yeah, it's like, because like the last time I just sat down and had fun with Pokemon, it has been a while. And I mean, and it's like, what do you really say about Pokemon? It's
what can you?
It's Pokemon. You know exactly what it is.
Yeah,
No,
and especially this one, because this is a remaster of a previous generation. So,
and they've been very surprisingly faithful.
And I think that's part of that reason why it's so good. Like ever since, like every generation, they've always had something. It's like we've always had these Giga Evolutions, Mega Evolutions, was it like Gigamaxing and
Gigantamaxing,
and those super special moves that you have to hold the plates for, the X electric moves or whatever they were.
Oh, in Sun and Moon, yeah.
Sun and Moon. It's like there's always got to be a gimmick. I think the gimmick with this one was like this was where you had like double and triple battles, or at least triple battles. I think.
The problem is I never played the previous generations. So.
I think in the original release, double battles was in the second generation, I believe.
Definitely not in the second gen. I don't remember anything in Gold and Silver having that. Maybe third.
Yeah,
maybe?
I think third did, because I think the third generation had a double gym leader.
Okay, maybe then. But I think then it also had the Pokemon like beauty contests as well.
Yes, that was something a bit different.
That was different, but that's something different that's completely unrelated to the battling, to the main game. It's a side thing. And it's one of the things I also loved in Heart Gold and Soul Silver was the Pokathlon. Because it wasn't part of like the main line. Because like this you've got the underground.
Which they've expanded quite a lot in this one.
They've expanded on that a lot.
I mean, I certainly like this generation. It had some of my favourite Pokemon came from this generation. Luxray and Leafeon.
Yeah. Luxray, absolutely amazing. Love my Luxray. But like, I know some people complained about like the style looking at it, but I think it all looks quite visually pleasing. It's not. It's a bit weird with the die. So one of the things that is a bit odd is that like you can, if you use the D-pad, you walk to the grid and you hold B to run. If you use the joystick, you push slow to walk, fast to run, and you have full free movement, which does end up leaving me bumping into things and slightly getting into places I shouldn't have. I saw that there was one of the gyms, the ice gym, you could like skip half the puzzle by just walking diagonally.
I think they may have patched that out now.
They may have patched that out, yeah.
I will say the other thing is I do like the fact they've moved the HMs onto a Poketech app.
Yes, not needing your own Pokemon to have that move now as well is so nice. It's like I don't want to have cut on any of these Pokemon.
Although I will say the variety of Pokemon from the Poketech app are small. There's only 3 Pokemon you'll see in that Poketech app.
Oh, what? They can use the HMs and stuff.
Yeah, you can probably guess what one of them is.
Yeah, considering one of them for Rock Smash and Cut is one of the original root Pokemon.
Yeah. Well, that Pokemon gets like most of the moves.
Does it get Fly and Surf?
It gets one of those two, but not its base form. Its evolved form gets it.
Okay.
Because its evolved form is water normal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a beaver.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I'm not used to like those starting trail Pokemon being of any use usually.
Oh no, I remember my B-Barrel in the original game was the HM slave.
Yeah, the fact that you don't need it, like it's a remake with all of the chaff cut out.
Yeah, I think they've done just the right amount of fixing and keeping stuff in.
Yeah, all of the right. It's had all the right quality of life upgrades. It's. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's pretty much exactly what I want from a Pokemon game.
For my bronze medal, for this, I am gonna throw in a game that I seriously didn't think it was gonna be coming out this year, and but lo and behold, not only did it come out, but it had a way of getting people hyped up for it, and it was really good because it was, you can almost say it was like the summer of this game, because you know the first two games came out in June, and then this third entry came in at the tail end of August, and that's just crazy how that came about. And yeah, I'm talking about No More Heroes 3.
Oh, yeah.
This was really good. Like, to lead up to the release of No More Heroes 3, they re-released or ported No More Heroes 1 and 2 not only onto Switch but also onto PC. And that was a really clever way of trying to gauge or like try to get hype driven up for No More Heroes 3, because essentially it's like trying to, you know, clear up or like try to get people up to speed for what 3 will introduce and whatnot, because it'll have characters from both games, and of course the spin-off title Travis Strikes Again. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The only thing that kind of like hinders it a little bit was overall performance on its hub worlds and whatnot.
Chugging.
Because yeah, it was chugging. It chugged quite bad at points.
Is this on the Switch?
Yeah, this is on the Switch. I mean, it's only available on the Switch right now, and it just took me out a little bit, because I mean, granted, it was the same for the original game, where in the original game's kind of like hub worlds when you're driving around on your bike and whatnot. It was like running at 30 frames per second, but when you go into combat, that's where performance was obviously better at points. And of course that's the case here in No More Heroes 3, where in combat it is fast, it's fluid, it's
optimized
smooth,
for combat,
and and the stuff that happens in the game in like No More Heroes 3, the twists, the turns, everything, I was just like, oh my god, it's this, oh it's that, it had all those kind of like check notes from me being actually happy with the game, you know. And you're probably and many people are thinking, so well, why are you putting this higher than you know, the like specifically Sonic Colors Ultimate, where that one, yeah, you just said, oh, it didn't have that many problems, but you're still putting No More Heroes higher. Well, first off, No More Heroes 3 is a newer game. Second of all, we haven't had a No More Heroes game or a proper No More Heroes game for years. So this was something that was really an proper hype moment for me. And in the end, I had a blast. I did have a blast.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter if it has more bugs, it can still be more fun.
Yeah, it can be. It only has slight performance issues. I'll flat out say that. But other than that, and granted, all the kind of like fluff that it has, like all the kind of like side missions and stuff like that, granted, I watched Gerard's completionist video on this and whatnot. From a completionist standpoint, it is not something you want to complete and whatnot. But as a game that you would just like blast through, and get to the end of the story, definitely worth it. I had a blast.